100% podcast.
Okay, and we're live. So we're back with another special episode of the You Deserve a Drink podcast, the podcast that focuses on interviewing the makers and creators within the crypto space. Today, Rizal and myself are super excited to be joined by Dannie of MakersPlace, one of the major crypto art marketplaces in the space. Welcome to the show, Dannie.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. We're excited to be here.
Cool. So introduce yourself, tell us who you are, what you've done, and then, of course, tell everybody what MakersPlace is.
Yeah, definitely. So, I guess my story, I've been just here in Silicon Valley. We're based out of San Francisco. I've been in the tech field for the last, 12, 13 years. Moved out here, grew up in Canada, actually. And I started my first company. Interestingly enough, I was creating a marketplace back in 2008, 2009 for artisan food. So trying to help independent food producers, people that didn't really understand the internet, build an online business. This is like before Shopify really took off and all the other e-commerce sites. So was really excited to work on that. Did that for a few years, and then I decided to join Pinterest. So I joined Pinterest as one of their first employees, an early employee there. I spent a good chunk of my time, and that's sort of where I got the inspiration for MakersPlace. I at Pinterest, I worked on user growth for many years. I helped grow Pinterest from just a few million users to hundreds of millions of users. So in the process, I worked very closely with a lot of the digital artists and the creatives that were on that platform. And sort of the thing that I noticed very early on at Pinterest was that there's this huge disparity between the amount of creativity and the works that are being put out by these artists and how little they actually get out of their works, how little value. And so I think it's a function of the internet. Like when you put something digital out there, anyone can copy and share it. Attribution gets lost very, very easily. And so if you want to think about flowing any sort of value back to the artist, it's actually very hard. And so we tried to solve that over at Pinterest, and turned out to be a very hard problem, and ultimately sort of leaned on DMCA and kind of went from there, sort of like all the other major online platforms. So, saw that for many years and thought, hey, there's got to be a better way. And so fast forward to 2017, 2018, started to get into blockchain. Started to learn a little bit more, read the Bitcoin white paper. My background's in engineering, so really went deep. Ethereum started to pick up steam. And then the whole CryptoKitty phase, rare digital art, the Forever Rose selling for $1 million, like all that started to pop up. And I was like, wow, like this is really neat. I think the technology immediately resonated with me as an immediate solution to this problem, where you have this immutable ledger where you can put something on that and that you can trust that it's going to be there in perpetuity. And providing that to an artist was extremely powerful, so that the moment that you create an artwork, a digital artwork, you can sign it with your proof of authenticity. You can issue limited editions, and you can know that that's going to last forever. And that was really powerful. So yeah, that's sort of where the idea for MakersPlace really blossomed. We said, hey, what if we provided this technology to pretty much every digital artist that we ever interacted with? And we started by building a platform. So MakersPlace really started with a eye towards helping creatives and artists. That's sort of where our name comes from. We're a place for makers, and that's sort of our roots. And so we built this platform to just help artists get onto the blockchain, issue these non-fungible tokens, ERC-721s, and sign them, authenticate with their identity, and ultimately sell their works. And then from there, we continue to build out the product. And just a few months ago, we launched our full-fledged marketplace and community. And so today, what you see on MakersPlace is a marketplace and community where you could discover, collect, and show off your rare digital art collections. And so that's sort of where we are today.
Dude, that was a great background, and you have a very fascinating history. Question for you, Danny. I actually, it's like about an hour ago, I scooped up a piece on MakersPlace from a user, Rama, who has been popping up on Scent. And it just got me thinking, and he seems like MakersPlace is where he went. And it just got me thinking, like, if I'm an artist, there's not a whole lot of choices out there. Like, is there a reason why MakersPlace is like the place to go if I'm an artist? Or like what I guess differentiates MakersPlace from some of the other people who are, in the same vein as you guys?
Yeah. So, going back to what I talked about, we started MakersPlace with this notion that we wanted to make blockchain technology accessible, like super easy and accessible. And so I think that's where, that's sort of the driving reason why artists, and a lot of the artists that are on our platform want nothing to do with blockchain. Like they sort of see it as, they hear about it, and they get excited about like what it has to offer, but the complexities around it, like managing digital wallets, gas fees, transaction times, retrying transactions, all that kind of stuff, like we abstract away. And so I think like our major differentiator has always been that we made it super simple for an artist to leverage this technology and issue their NFTs without knowing anything. And so we've taken just a unique approach to minting these NFTs and establishing identity and issuing these on behalf of the artist. And so I think that's the primary differentiator and the thing that we're seeing that a lot of artists are getting excited about.
Yeah, I think that point is so important. I was speaking with Mighty Moose a couple of days ago, and he couldn't say enough good things about MakersPlace, how you guys really helped onboard him when he started to look into how to tokenize his art. And I think that point is really important. Like a lot of these creators, they simply can't be bothered, at least initially, with, for lack of a better expression, like this technical mumbo jumbo blockchain. Like, what is this? I just want to create something and interact with my fans. So I'm just wondering if you could walk us through from like when a new artist or creator comes your way, how do you actually onboard them to your platform? I know you make it simple, but for any new creators or artists that may be listening to this, what could they expect if they reach out to MakersPlace in terms of the steps from contact to posting their work on your marketplace?
First of all, it's awesome to hear Mighty Moose saying amazing things. I recognize him and see a lot of his artworks. So that's awesome. So as an artist, it's pretty straightforward. We are invite only right now. And we do that at this point just to make sure that all the artists on our platform, their identity has been verified. And that's a big part of our process. So other than that...
how do you verify the identity of these creators? What metrics, what data points do you use? Or is it just a simple conversation for humanity?
It started off that way. But we've been able to, we were able to build technology so that, we can keep up with all the artists that are, pounding on our doors. So we do a number of things. So one of the things that we do is, we start with your email. Obviously, you want to make sure that you verified that. And then we look through all your social channels. And so, we allow you to provide, any number of social channels to make sure that you've established multiple points of identity. So that could be your Twitter, Instagram, website, and your Scent. Some people have that. And then on top of that, for artists that really want to take it to the next level and really build that assurance, we also partner with Civic, which is a decentralized identity verification service. And they help verify government-issued IDs without having to store your identification on a central server. So we don't actually store any of that information. We just go through Civic and get the identity proofs. And so identity is really hard. It really boils down to, the more identity proofs that you have about a particular person, the more, the higher probability that the person who is who they say they are. And so We usually ask for 2 to 3 points of identity before we allow any artist to be featured across MakersPlace.
That's really awesome, and something that's come up a lot in the podcast, especially with additional sort of closing up shop, is like, how do you know what you're getting is the real thing and has been verified? And it's sort of like the Wild West right now out there in this entire space. So to know you guys like take verification seriously and aren't just letting anyone roll up and start churning out NFTs is huge. And I think like super important in propelling this space forward. Like people have to be able to trust what they're getting,
Yeah, no, totally. I think that, it's something that we care deeply about from the beginning. I mean, the whole idea behind attribution, it was that you have to establish your identity at the point of creation. Because once it's out there, then it's sort of like like he said, she said, like, how do you prove that you're actually the owner? And so, it's very important that we try our best to establish that so that when you upload your artworks, there's a high probability that you can prove that you were the original creator. And that's super important to us, from our experience. Yeah.
Dude, one thing that I've complained a lot about, and Matthew and I have talked a lot about, is that a lot of the stuff out there is really focused on artists themselves and not necessarily collectors. And, we're sort of hitting a point where in this space that a lot of the artists have sold through like their first several rounds of prints and everything. And Matthew and I got talking about like how soon at some point the scene has got to shift at least partially towards the direction of the collector. And one thing I really appreciate about MakersPlace is I feel like you guys have really sort of taken the bull by the horns and offered some really cool features that I haven't seen yet for people like myself who are not artists but are sitting on a pile of like really cool art and want some ways to be able to show it off and filter it and everything. So the gallery view is amazing, man. Do you want to talk a little bit about like some of the cool things that you have for people like ourselves who are collectors but not necessarily are artistically inclined?
Yeah, I really appreciate it. So we, our goal, it's an order of operations thing. Like we started by like really building a great platform for artists, and we understand that at this point, we have to meet the other side of the marketplace and build a really great experience for collectors. Like you have to have that balance. So so we launched our gallery mode. Really appreciate the kind words. I love it. It's a great way for you to view your artworks, whether you're looking for artworks or you're viewing it in your collection after you purchased it, in a really beautiful way. It's simple, but it's beautiful. And that's sort of what we tried to accomplish. Black background, really putting the artwork as an emphasis and allowing you to go full screen. And that's part of our mission. Like we want to eventually provide just more ways for you as a collector to appreciate your work, share it, just feel proud about what you collect, and be able to display it across multiple digital devices as well. So one thing that we're hoping for and we're working on right now is just more ways for you to browse within that gallery mode as well. If you go full screen, to be able to easily Chromecast it or AirPlay it to Apple TV. I know for me, what I do now, what I can do now is I take my collection, I'll AirPlay it to my my TV and enter gallery mode, and it just plays. It's beautiful. And so we want to take that further because we do need to provide more use cases for collectors. I think it's sort of that time right now where we have to educate collectors, get them excited about what they can do with these rare digital artworks. And a big part of that is how they display it in their personal space.
So on that point of education, I mean, of course, we want to educate collectors more, but I feel like maybe there's a half step before that or a full step before, where there's a lot of people who may become collectors, but they're not there yet. Maybe they've heard of crypto art. Maybe they've heard about the recent sales, like the $10,000 Trevor Jones and a lot of money collaboration. And then they come over here but then they're like, hold on, why should I spend this much money? How do you approach people in general? Like, I'm sure in your day-to-day interactions, you're telling people that you're running MakersPlace and it's a crypto art marketplace. When they ask, what is crypto art? Like, why do people spend money on that? Like, what's the point? Like, what is your go-to explanation to try to let them see the light and open up their pockets to become a collector?
It varies. I think that, it depends on who you talk to. I think that, right now, a lot of the market is driven by people that are familiar with cryptocurrencies. And so when you approach someone that understands, at least at a high level, the idea of digital ownership and scarcity, then it's just a matter of applying the same sort of principles in terms of why someone collects art in the first place. It's many of the people that ultimately collect, they gravitate towards the fact, if you can tell a really great story. When we go to these art shows and we do pop-ups occasionally, you got to talk about the artist, the story behind the artwork, the potential for investment, and I think that those are some things that are really important at educating and getting people to buy into it. When you sort of venture into, I guess, the real world, like the general population, it's definitely a little trickier, and I think that's where we're trying to bridge the gap. It's really helpful. I tend to give the example of just like the Mona Lisa, for example. Everyone understands it's an extremely valuable piece, but where does the value of that art piece come from? It comes from the story. It comes from the fact that it's unique. It's one of a kind. You can take pictures of it. You can create pristine physical replications of it, but there's only one. And I think a lot of people resonate with that when you're able to tie it to something like a famous art piece, like a masterpiece like that. But then even then, you do need to, a lot of these folks do need to see it in a personal space. And I think things like digital frames and showing it within a digital device, it's really a game changer. And that's when we go to these pop-up shows and showcase it within a physical space, like people's minds are blown. They kind of see it moving, the slow motion artworks, coupled with the fact that they know that this is a one-of-a-kind piece that only they own. Like, all those pieces put together get people really excited.
I agree with you 1,000%. That's actually a great segue to my next question is, when are you going to give me ball till life, man? And honestly, man, that's one of the things that I appreciate about you and what you bring to this space in general, is because you've mentioned, appealing to people on the investment side of things and everything. And I am on board with that point 1,000%. But you also are an art collector in your own right, because you have this piece of art that I really, really want, and you won't fucking give it to me. And I'm like, dude, take my money. I'll trade you for any piece. And for people listening, it's a really cool piece by an artist I wasn't totally familiar with until I started stalking Danny's profile. And I grew up on the basketball court, and I just saw this piece, and it just hit something in my soul. And I'm like, Danny, I need this piece, dude. Like, what, he had mentioned, Danny had mentioned a piece that he liked in my portfolio. I was like, dude, I'll trade it to you. I'll pay you something. And he's like, no, it's important to me. It reminds me of an important time in my life. And I can't argue with that, right? But I feel like, appealing to that side of people is certainly a thing, because, part of me is in it for the investment and the interest and everything. But at the same time, I've got pieces that I know I've got a death grip on too, that you could offer me almost anything for, and I would just be like, no, it's meaningful to me. And I feel like that's a really different kind of itch that cryptocurrency has not scratched up until really the last few months. So when are you going to give it to me, Danny? No, I'm just playing around, obviously, but
Yeah.
I appreciate your perspective on that, and the fact that you're not just hoarding this to dump it and flip it and everything. Like, this is obviously like a meaningful venture in some capacity for you, or you have like an eye for art. Is that from your days at Pinterest, or have you always been like just sort of interested in art?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been a creative growing up. When I was young, I studied, classically trained piano, and I've always just been just a creative type. And being at Pinterest was, also obviously a eye-opening experience working with creatives and just amazing creative folks as well. So, yeah, I really appreciate you saying good things about Ball to Life. That I think like that piece sort of encompasses what art is. When you connect with the story, and when a particular art just connects with you at a very, very deep and emotional and visceral level, like I think that's where that's just the beauty of art. And I think when most of the collectors that we've interacted with, they get to that point, that's where they're bought in to this idea of digital art. If they can understand that, trust in the blockchain technology and things, and then they connect with the art piece at that level, then it doesn't matter if it's digital or if it's hanging on your wall or whatnot. It's the fact that you're the one that owns it, and it's deeply connected to you. So that's what's awesome about crypto art and rare digital art. So sorry, man, I'm gonna have to keep on to it for a little longer until maybe something changes in my life and I need to change. But I feel like it's going to stay with me for a little longer.
No, I agree with you, man. I connected with that piece on a level like you're saying, and it's the truth, man. I understand the technology at this point, and I don't want a copy and paste version of it. I want your version of it. I want the original. There's only one out there, and that is something that is desirable. But I'll let you off the hook, man. You got a lot of like really cool fish with like googly eyes that I also really love. So I'll be checking out some of your stuff either way. So. Go ahead, Matthew. Sorry, man. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Hey, no worries, man. It's beautiful to hear people talk about like why they like crypto art and why they're obsessed over it and why they covet it so much. And I think a large part, like Danny, to your point, focusing on that story of the piece, I think that's super important. And then to what Rizzo was talking about, the fact that we can own these digital creations, it's such a game changer. And then the other thing is just that, well, this stuff just looks incredibly good. I mean, it looks good on your smartphone. It looks good if you throw it up on like a 4K, like super HD TV. Like, it just looks freaking good. And there's a lot of experimentation going on, which is super exciting. One of the emergent trends that I really think like crypto broadly, but then crypto art in particular is beginning to provision is like this collaboration amongst the creators to make a singular piece or to make a joint creation. That's something that has me really excited in the space. And through all the creators that I've spoken with, it's something that a lot of them have wanted to do for a while, but it just in the real world, there's so many barriers to collaborating with one another. But within crypto, I mean, as long as you have an internet connection and you have some mutual trust right now, but in the future, the smart contracts will kind of like make that trust building exercise like superfluous almost. They can create something and then they can sell it and they can split the funds so trivially easy, right? I'm just wondering, like, outside of collaborations and just like, what are some of the more unique things that you're starting to see arise in the space as it gets older? It's still super new, but I feel like we've been here for over a year and a half for some people, maybe closer to 2 years for others. And there's starting to be some differentiation with the offline traditional creations that we had seen previously. So I'm just, from your perspective, what's the new that's starting to arise and it look pretty exciting to you?
I think the big thing that we're excited about is just continue to look for ways to give value back to the artist. So I think you guys talked about this quite a bit, but we're continuing to be really excited about the whole royalty play and finding more ways to just just because the identity of an artist is just on the blockchain, with their wallet address, you can do cool things where you can always give some sort of value back to them. And you can, whether it's just on a resale or you can program any sort of unique situation into a smart contract, and you can just send the money to an address, and surprise the artist. I think like that's really cool. And that's just innate to this technology. So I think like that's one thing that I'm pretty excited about. I think the collaboration thing is interesting as well. I've definitely heard more artists asking for that, and so we're taking a deeper look into how we can make that really easy and seamless. I think those are the main things that I can think of right now.
So when it comes to the royalties or like sending fees back to the creators if their pieces have been sold on the secondary market, like is there anything in the works over in MakersPlace? Is there something set up already that artists can opt into if they want?
Yeah, so we're working on it right now. We're just going through some, a lot of this stuff needs to be audited, make sure it's done right. So we're just working through the last little details. So very excited to hopefully get that launched in the new year. Like so many artists have been asking for it. We know it's super important, but we wanted to get it right and make sure that we deliver a really great experience. And so so that's something that we're very excited about. We'll be launching that pretty shortly.
Cool. And then how big is the MakersPlace team?
Yeah, we're a pretty small team. We're 6 people full time, and so. We're still pretty scrappy, pretty small, trying to navigate this entire space. And it's a lot of fun.
Danny, like project or, look into your crystal ball, like a year from now, like how has the crypto art landscape changed? And one of the things that Matthew and I have been talking about is actually some of the exact same thing that you had mentioned that MakersPlace strives to be is sort of like ease of onboarding and ease of understanding for people to get in the game. And one of my biggest fears with anything, art, crypto art, and any up and coming trend is it just getting flooded with bullshit from like every direction, and sort of like the really cool stuff getting drowned out in everything else. So I mean, we were just saying yesterday, in the span of 3 months, very significant changes have happened across the board in this whole space in general. Can you predict the future at all? Or is it like changing so rapidly that it's hard to see where things are going? Or project out a little bit, 6 months, 12 months down the line. Do you see like interest increasing exponentially from artists, collectors, or do you think it's sort of going to continue to be, or maybe not continue to be, but I feel like the people who understand are here now, and the trick is exactly what you said, onboarding people who have limited understanding of this concept in general. How do you see this playing out over the course of the next year or so?
Yeah, I think it's actually very exciting to see. From the artist perspective, we're seeing like massive growth. And so I think that's a good thing and potentially a bad thing, as long as you're able to manage it correctly. So you mentioned like getting flooded with artworks and then drowning out the cool things. I think you got to be mindful of that and make sure that you're able to, provide ways for collectors to sift through and find the right artworks. But no, it's been exciting. On the artist side, we're seeing a lot of excitement. More and more people are signing up each day and trying to get on to put their artworks and create on this new medium. And so that's pretty cool. I think on the collector side, like you mentioned, we've been following Twitter and looking at these massive sales, massive from a relative standpoint, but in still really awesome to see these huge auctions and these bid wars going on. Like that's super cool. I think that my experience from working on consumer products from the early stages to seeing it scale, it just takes time. Like right now, we're seeing some really, really passionate art collectors, just to name a few. Like I think Whale Shark was doing a whole bunch of bidding, and then there's like Moderats, and like you're trying to see these these really passionate collectors starting to blossom, and I think like that's a really positive sign, and I think that's only going to continue, and I think that in the next 6-12 months you're going to see a lot more of these folks emerge, because what ends up happening is these collectors are collecting, and then people are going to talk about these awesome new pieces that they collected, and there's going to be validation, and then other people kind of their ears perk up and they jump into it, and that's how all movements start. And so I'm super excited with what I'm seeing right now in the collector space. But on top of that, I think like probably in the next, especially for us, we want to really focus the next 12 months on trying to connect with more of the just your regular passionate art collector, art enthusiast. And I think that what we'll see is that as you're able to bring more household names, I guess, more like fine artists, professional artists, the artists that people are familiar with onto the platform, by making the onboarding and the education very easy, you're going to be able to tap into these traditional collectors. I think that's where you bridge the gap between this crypto art movement and just making rare digital art a norm. I think like that's going to happen as we get more and more these established artists, the artists that most of the rest of the world are familiar with. And I think like you're going to see a lot of that in the next 6 to 12 months. So, I'm extremely bullish. Otherwise I wouldn't be working on this. And so I'm super excited what's in store.
That's really cool. And that kind of brings us back to the beginning of the conversation when you're introducing yourself and your time at Pinterest. And I mean, I'm wondering if there's any like lessons learned that you could take or that you're thinking about from your time at Pinterest working on growth to help grow that creator base.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think the big thing is just making the onboarding extremely easy and providing the right education. So, that's education within the space. I know you guys are doing amazing things. Your community is pretty vibrant, and a lot of people are, talking about the future of rare digital art. And I think that as you see more, material content, blog articles getting published, it just helps people easily gain validation for this new medium. And couple that with, as I mentioned, you got to make it super simple, because obviously the early adopters are going to jump over hoops and all sorts of obstacles to try something neat and cool and new. But the rest of the population, the 99% or the 90th percent of the population, they're not going to be willing to do that or capable of doing that. And I think like that's sort of where the next major unlock has to come from, is just continue to make it really easy to use, just blockchain technology, just make it super accessible, easy, and provide that education. I want to also say like one really important thing is, so you mentioned, I think Trevor Jones' art sold this $10,000 piece, which is amazing. I think things like that is just really great for the entire ecosystem, because when you look at someone like Trevor Jones, actually a friend of mine, put me onto him many months ago, because I think he just creates amazing artworks, crypto art, like physical crypto art, and he has a huge following, and he has a collector base already. And as you're able to bring and captivate those sort of artists, what they're going to do is they're going to bring in their existing collectors, their collector base, and their peer group, people that are kind of on the fence, who have sort of an established collector base. And as you get more of these folks, these artists that have an established base, the entire ecosystem is just going to thrive. And that's why I'm so excited about just seeing more of these examples of people like Trevor getting into it. And it's just really great for everybody.
Dude, I think you hit the nail on the head with that. And I was actually having this conversation with Skeeny earlier today, and I know he's on MakersPlace as well. And talking about this difficulty with onboarding new people, and even just like, for example, I go to a family function and I try to like explain this to like almost anybody who has, no real concept of cryptocurrencies or blockchain and everything. And he's in a very similar boat. He's got like sort of his own network and community of artists and everything who are super clueless about this whole concept. And we were trying to, talking back and forth about how to explain it to people and what the right, words are to use, etc. And he was like, honestly, at the end of the day, the biggest explainer is money. He's like, once I show people that I've sold a bunch of this artwork, then it starts turning heads. And, I thought about that for a second, and I was like, he's absolutely right. At this family function that I mentioned, I've brought up this stuff before, but once I showed people that the bids were going into thousands of dollars, all of a sudden people are like, really? What? Tell me more about this like interesting concept that I was, thought you had no idea what you were talking about before. So I agree with you, man. I feel like at this point, I feel like enough money is going to push this cat out of the bag. And then once the cat's out of the bag, it's out of the bag. The concept is too good for it not to become a thing. And money talks, right? You don't spend $10,000 on nothing. And even like the little incremental sales that are constantly going on across the board are meaningful. And I know I mentioned earlier I bought this piece, and it wasn't like terribly expensive. It was the first piece this guy Rama had sold, and the dude was like so excited that I bought it. And I really like he's made like a lot of really cool posts on Scent, liked his artwork, wanted to support him, didn't need to break the bank, but it. Money talks, and it's proof of concept to him, just like it is to other people who are watching what's going on. So I agree with you, man. I think you're right on the money with the points you just made.
That's the reality. I think, when you're able to prove that there's a economic model here, then everyone jumps in. I think that's something that we've definitely seen as well, over here at MakersPlace, where, most of the artists that, we reach out to artists, we try to contact folks, that we are excited about, and they're just like, well, show me the numbers. And so, that's just the reality. And what's awesome is that we're starting to see a pretty big influx, of people buying from anywhere from, $10 a piece to hundreds of dollars, and you're seeing these $1,000 purchases. And, that's really meaningful. And both from an for the artist's sake, like that goes a long way for a lot of the members in their community, and that's just going to translate into them sharing with their community, and it's just going to take off from there. So yeah, you're absolutely right. The money's a huge factor there.
Well, it was awesome to talk to you about everything going on at MakersPlace. I'm super excited about this project, from how good it looks, but just the constant iteration and improvements, listening to your community. That's so important. And not enough projects really, really embody that operating principle, which is it's everything. You got to keep building. You got to keep improving. You got to keep refining, making it more simple, and just spreading that awareness of what you're doing. And you seem to be doing all of that with MakersPlace. So super excited for that. But before we wrap this up, is there anything that you wanted to share? Is there any announcements you want to let us know before we wrap this up?
Really appreciate you saying that. It means a lot. We try. Community is a huge part of what we're trying to do, and we care really deeply about. Obviously, you noticing that and pointing that out means a lot. I think for us to just nothing specifically about a product or whatnot, but we're super excited to be in this space, and there's a lot of excitement around it. And I think just a call for artists, if for anyone who's like really excited about or interested or curious about rare digital art and crypto art, definitely give us a shot, check us out. would love to get people onto this new wave. So yeah, thanks for having me.
It was a pleasure, man. And then I saw that you joined Scent, so start posting over there, and and then we'll for sure help you out. And then with your community, like, does it live on Telegram? Does it live on the site? Like, is there, just let everyone know where they can find the maker community?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're pretty active on Discord. We just sort of chose that as our primary hub, and we have a pretty active community there. So you can check us out on Discord. Twitter, we're pretty active on Twitter as well. But just at MakersPlace.com, we have all the links available there. One thing that I'm actually very excited about is we're starting to get really excited about CryptoVoxels. I know you guys have been like talking about it quite a bit. I went into CryptoVoxels a few weeks ago and I just fell in love. I'm sort of a late bloomer there, but just the amount of creativity there, and just seeing a lot of to be frank, a lot of the artists that within our community or just in the space, it's just amazing. So that's an area that we're excited to be getting into in the new year as well. And so we're going to be working with Conlin within the Neon Zone, doing some cool stuff there. So definitely keep an eye out for what we'll be doing there. I'm very excited about that space.
That's awesome. Maybe our next conversation can take place in the Gangnam district of CryptoVoxels. That'll be awesome.
Yeah, cool.
Well, it was a pleasure to speak with you, Danny. I'm sure this is the first of many conversations. I wish you the best of luck, and happy holidays.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, and happy holidays as well.